Hello and welcome to the Happy Insights podcast. My name is Happy Ali. Welcome to the show. Today, we are going to have a wonderful guest. We're going to have the author of Free to Be, a 6-week guide to reclaiming your soul. We have Shirin Etessam here today. Hi, Shirin. Thank you for being on the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
I'm excited to have you here. Shirin is a seasoned media executive, entrepreneur, author, and transformational speaker. She has produced films, original television series, created several companies, and led campaigns for some of the world's most recognized companies. She is also a proud member of the LGBTQIA plus community, just like myself. So welcome again to the show, and I can't wait for my audience to hear more about your incredible book. It's so cool. So tell us what inspired you to write this book.
Everybody, they say that everybody has a book in them. I just didn't know what that book was. And I went through a major life event, a big breakup with my partner at the time. And we had been together for 13 years. We had been dear friends for 9 years prior to that. We had 2 kids together, and 22 years of love, commitment, friendship, loyalty, all disappeared within a 20-minute conversation. And it propelled me into a abyss of nothingness and darkness. And I didn't understand what was going on. I realized from fairly early on that this wasn't a matter of a broken heart. Everything felt broken. And what was really confusing for me was that I had spent years striving for all the things that we strive for, the positions, the accolades, the awards, creating companies. I prided myself on entrepreneurship and all of that. And I'm telling you, I felt dead inside. I call the years leading up to it my Walking Dead years, but I hadn't realized it. And I was also really afraid, because I was like, okay, if I'm going to unravel right now, this can't be good for either me or for my kids, who were 5 and 7 at the time. So I really set out to find out why. I was like, this cannot be my final chapter. And so I began some really, 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 really deep soul searching without really knowing what I was doing. And I spent 6 years looking at every nook and cranny, under every rock, and it was dark and messy and sloppy. I call it bobbing for spiritual apples, because I really had no idea what I was doing. So, and after 6 years, when I really felt like I, righted my own ship and saw the light, so to speak, as in there were definitely glimmers of that light throughout those 6 years, but where I felt really solid, I realized that if I knew what I was doing during those 6 years, that the process that I went through could really be distilled down into 6 weeks. So I basically wrote the book that I wish I had when I was at that crossroad.
That's awesome, because so many people go through the same experience without having a guide. And looking at your book and just looking at the table of contents, it's so well thought out. And you can tell that every step is perfect to follow the previous step, because it really is a journey. And, I can see that when you do it, you can apply it in 6 weeks, but you can still go back to it and then reread it and work on each section for longer periods of time, because I think every time you go, you're peeling a new layer of the onion, and it's amazing. It could be 6 weeks on loop, because it is really good. Because I think part of your journey that's really special is that you didn't have the book first, so you had to really just dig, and really go through it at your own pace. But I think when you have it, you're not aimless anymore, and you have a guide. I think that whole concept of having a mentor is gone, or an apprentice, the whole apprenticeship thing where you had someone to look up to. But thank God for people like you coaching, writing, and really taking people, offering courses, and allowing people to have this experience with someone kind of holding their hands. It's hard. Life is hard. And
Yeah. I actually I wrote the book intentionally at exactly as you're stating it. So it's very, very gratifying hearing it from you, but I wrote it for it to be very much a how-to. So it's a step-by-step. It's structured intentionally the way that it is for a reason, which I can get into. It's also meant to be really experiential and immersive, so that instead of, it being conceptual, you're actually immersed in it, because it's very, very different when we're thinking about something rather than doing it. And then it was also really important for me to be able to be integrated into our daily lives, so we don't have to like go to a mountaintop or a retreat or whatever. So anybody anywhere can do it, very pocketbookish. And that was important to me.
oh, I love that. My first book was supposed to be an airplane. Well, it is an airplane book, is what I call it. It's very simple and you can read through it very quickly, which is also what your book is like. The chapters are split into very small sections and you can just breeze through it, which I love. I think with the attention span that social media has created for us, people are craving things like that. People want to read, but then they don't want to sit down and read. So that brings me to your first section of the book, which is info. Is it info fixation?
It sounds sexy, and it's not. It's infoxication.
Okay, infoxication. All right. So tell me about infoxication,
Yeah.
and because I really think it's an issue, and
Yeah.
tell me how you overcome it, or what is it? Tell us.
Yeah. So I say that, there's nothing foxy about infoxication. And infoxication is a subchapter of brain detox. And I start there because our minds are the biggest culprit in us living out loud, because it just chats and never shuts up. And it's usually negative thoughts. We have like 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of them are negative, and 95% of them are repetitive. So, this washing machine of negative chatter that begins literally as like you open up your eyes, and it's not like, yes, I'm going to conquer this day. It's like, oh shit, I've got to do this and I've got to do this and I didn't do that yet. And I said that thing that was so stupid. Oh, and that person really pissed me, right? Chat, 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 chat. And then what happens? Social media, TV, all the media that we have access to. And frankly, since the pandemic, we've all become addicted to our screens if we weren't before. And it's information coming at us 24/7. And it truly is. So we've got the washing machine going on, right, of the negative thoughts. And then we throw in more information as if it's not enough, the chaos that's going on in there. And infoxication is a real thing. It's not my term. And it basically is a content overload so that you can't think clearly. And you talk about all of us, I know it was jokingly ADHD, but I really believe that we all have a certain amount of it. And this inability to focus. And it also robs us of a level of connectedness and fulfillment and um, presence that we can only get if we monitor what it is that we allow in. So there's two things that I basically talk about in the brain detox chapter. And, I mean, there's a lot of other things I talk about, but two main things. One is finding separation from our thoughts, and they call that mindfulness, uh, consciousness, and meditation is a great way of doing it. There's other ways of doing it, but basically stepping outside of your thoughts so that you have thoughts, thoughts don't have you. That's number one. The second part is limiting the information that comes in. And the only way you do that is by you doing that. So, for example, I never watch the morning news. I far before the Netflix and the Hulus and what have you, I stopped watching broadcast TV just because I mean, it is very formulated and intended to catch your attention, and I didn't want it. I didn't want my mind full of it. And now with social media, I mean, and even now when I'm in the process of promoting the book and all of that, if I do not need to be online, I shut it off. So I talk about different ways of doing so that we can truly allow our minds just to rest. That is it.
The brain has different frequencies, which is beta, alpha, theta, gamma, a delta, different brainwave frequencies that give you access to different parts of you. And when you're observing the outside world, it's in beta because there's so much information coming in. So your brain has to go really fast. The waves have to go really fast. But the only way to tap into your inner world is if you slow it down to a low alpha or a high theta. And there's no way to do that. So you actually cut yourself off from your intuition when you're absorbed in the external world. And you can't do that, but you need some practices or awareness around how to shut that down. And we stopped watching the news for a lot of us, but the social media addiction is way worse because it's in our bed now. You wake up, you look at your phone, and there's clickbait um, headlines for all the way from any site that you're on, all the way to any social media um, app that you use, platform that you're on. And what do you recommend to people when their first addiction is no longer coffee? It's looking at their phone when they wake up.
I think that it is to be mindful about it and also realize that social media, I spend a good deal of time talking about social media and the kind of Frankenstein that was created, feeding you what they believe you want. So it ends up being this massive echo chamber of basically them giving you more of what they believe you will consume. You think about when TV first came out, right? The big thing was TV dinners. You would have TV in the background all the time. Some people still have that. And then families would sit around and get their TV dinners. That's how they were created. And just, and at some point they're like, oh, this isn't really good for you. Same with cigarettes, and there are more and more studies coming out. I mean, the depression rate has skyrocketed, and there is direct association with social media, especially when it comes to teens and the developing mind. I mean, all of it is truly living intentionally. And part of that is intentionally turning things off. And I do that, for me, it's at a certain time in the evening, as much as I can help it on the weekends. None of us are ever allowed to have our phones at the dining table ever. So things like that. My friend Tiffany Schlein wrote 24/6, basically taking a digital Shabbat from all the chaos. So once a week, her and her family do so very, very intentionally, and then create activities that connect them, which is gorgeous.
I love all that because it's all about clearing the mind clutter, as you put it, just getting the stuff out of your head and allowing yourself to have a real life experience based on your own personal experience that, you got to have for yourself. And it doesn't involve the entire world flooding you with information and algorithms choosing how to keep you stuck watching.
And if I can add one other thing, you mentioned your intuition. The whole first part of my book is all about excavating so that we can hear our intuition better. What I call the soul, our true essence. And it's not just it's a matter of the brain, our emotions stepping in, our bodies. So there's a massive amount of excavation that needs to happen in order for us to be able to hear that voice and to connect with our true essence. And I think that's important to point out, because people are like, I haven't heard my intuition for years. You know what I mean? Or people, are like, follow your bliss. Well, where is my bliss? Like,
What is my bliss? This is
what
the
is
thing.
my bliss,
People are
right?
so involved in other people's bliss and
Correct.
copying what their bliss is. They forgot their own bliss. They really do forget what their own bliss is.
So all the work of the first part of it is so that you can be able to tap into your intuition and tap into your true essence, so that you can find your bliss,
I love that.
and have it be authentic rather than, like you said, copying other people's bliss or kind of guessing at it. That I would actually say that the reclamation of our souls are a byproduct of the excavation.
I love that because my upcoming book is called The Intuition Bible, How to Tap into Your Infinite Wisdom. So I resonate with all of that, which brings me to another section of your book, which is the heart detox and telling apart your heart from your head. And you have a different approach because a lot of people say follow your heart, but I noticed that you have a different thing you wanted to say, which was follow your soul, basically. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think it's really important as one goes through the process of self transformation to really identify and distinguish the difference between our mind, heart, body, and soul. Because it's often jumbled and we task the wrong parts of us with the wrong things. So the heart and soul is often used interchangeably, and I think that's a misnomer. In that the heart, yeah, a lot of times people call it your inner child, which it's become kind of cliche. In the book, I call it your inner puppy. So all that the inner child or inner puppy wants is to be loved, to be seen, to be cared for, and to be acknowledged. That is it. And it's also super finicky. It wants, popcorn, 1 hour, then it wants to go take a nap. It likes someone, then it doesn't like someone, then it's hurt, and, which is fantastic, and like a child or a puppy, you take really good care of it when it needs it. So if it comes to you with a pain, you listen to it. Whether your mind is like, well, that's stupid or not, doesn't matter. You hold it, you acknowledge it, you recognize that pain, and you validate it. So that is what we do with our hearts. You don't ask your heart to lead the way, because again, like the next hour, it's going to want to go, play on a seesaw, whatever it is. So it's truly our soul that we're talking about. And a part of taking care of our heart is the protection part. So I talk about how to protect ourselves from situations and from people who don't support our lives. And I think that's really important to acknowledge and allow that not everybody is your people. And it doesn't mean that you hate them or any of that. I actually have this filter that I ask people to put everyone through. And I call it taser, shield, filter, or hug.
I want to hear about that.
So taser is basically people that need to be tasered out of your life. People who are toxic, and you know those people because they'll like instantly pop up. If they don't need to be in your life, just taser them out. Don't do it physically, but like emotionally, um, mentally, spiritually, taser them out. Shield are for people who have to be in your life, but in a very limited way. That could be like a co-parent, an ex that you co-parent with, or a boss that you do not like. These people have to be in your life, but you create major, major boundaries and you keep them. Filter is really, really on you. It's not oversharing. We all know those oversharers in our lives, and whether it's on the bus or on social media, not everybody is your people, so don't share everything that is intimate and personal with everyone, and definitely don't do it on social. And then hug is your tribe, as Brene Brown says, the people that have that deserve a seat at your table. And I have 6 to 8 people, even though I have a very large community of friends and family. It's those 6 to 8 people, and those people can truly say whatever it is that they want to say to you, and you need to listen. So my 2 besties, they do not let me off of anything. If I do anything that is off, they are the first 2 that are just like, buddy, you just stepped up. And I'll be like, yeah, you're right, I did. And then I have to own it. So that's that category. And the quickest way of knowing where somebody lies, or a situation that may not work for you, is when you walk into it or when you're sitting in front of them or listening to them, ask yourself, does this person or situation expand or contract my heart? And you'll have your answer. So, and then you'll know where to put them in the filter category.
It's so hard sometimes because we have history with certain people, or something inside of you just feels like you're meant to be in somebody's life. But every time you're around them, there's that weird feeling that comes over you. But some sort of an obligation is there. I'm one of those people that likes to be extremely loving, positive, forgiving. Like, I put my heart out there and I help everybody because I feel like I was put on this earth to shine a beacon of light. And I feel like I'm always supposed to be available if somebody needs me, because I'm strong and some people are not. Or in this very particular case, I met somebody 20 years ago. I fell in love. I married that person for, we were together for 4 years, but everything was against us being together, even like our location. But I was so in love and I felt like that person loved me. We were madly in love that I moved heaven and earth to bring that person. And I went against the grain because the world was like, no, 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 no. And I said, no, I believe in this person. I will do anything for this person. I did what I had to do, tortured myself along the way. And then eventually, after 4 years, I was like, this is not going to work out. And then, but I stayed in that person's life because I wanted to make sure I was available. I was helping, because that person was more in need. So for another 17 years or whatever, it's been 20 something years, I was always there. Sometimes I had to cut myself away, but I'm always present. And of course, I've invested so much love. And ironically, it's funny that you bring this up. That individual, like about like 7 or 8 months ago, decided to just completely ghost me. And it hurt me because I thought, oh my God, I've done all this stuff for you. And then this is how you say goodbye. You can't just write a text and say, hey, I think we're done, just something. Because I was always very well intentioned. And to this day, it was so hard because I keep feeling like I don't want to abandon people, or I want to be still available in case, like, God forbid, they kill themselves. I don't want to feel responsible. That there's a point in your life where you have to say, hey, it's not my responsibility, and should be way earlier on, that this person's on their own. And I did something that I never do, because I've lost friends to death. And my best friend, my son, I've lost a lot of people um, in car accidents and other things. I'm older, so I'm 45, so I've lost people. So I like to hold on to every text just in case they're dead and I want to be able to read it. It just, I hold on because of whatever reason it is. Today I did something I've never done before. I deleted 10 years since I had my iPhone of text history, which for me was almost gut wrenching because I felt like I just deleted a chapter of my life. But then it was one of those things that when I saw just the chapter title of your book, which is Taser, Shield, Filter, or Hug, I knew that I was reading that for a reason. But I realized that letting go, tasering is what it is what we're talking about in this case, can be really difficult, especially for many different reasons. We hold on to people for different reasons. Mine is that I'm just so full of love that I can't imagine the concept of getting someone out of my life. It's so dramatic and final to me. But I'm realizing that that shouldn't always be the case. Like, you should be okay with letting people go if all they do is make you contract. And that for me has been a challenge. And I think reading this and talking to you is reminding me of that, and also very impactful in this moment of my life. And I know so many other people will benefit just not from hearing this, but also reading your book. So thank you for that. And I wanted to tell you how relevant it was in my life at this moment. Because what I deleting thing that I did was this morning, and I was just like, very.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think that if it is bringing you pain, again, if it is contracting you, then you are not giving yourself the love that you're giving others, which is, if I may say, the definition of codependency. So and I could see that. I'm also like the Enneagram, I'm a 2-3, the helper achiever. And I am so prone to the same thing. If I see a car broken down on the freeway, a dog loss, like, I'm number one in like trying to figure that out. And I can't help myself, ushering spiders out of the house and all of that. I run that way as well. But especially going through the process, like, I did not feel that I could heal with certain people in my life. And there was no reason why they should be in my life except that I had felt some form of obligation to them. And very much like you, because I wanted to, continue to be the positive force in their lives and blah, blah, blah. And it's self-defeating, and it for me at least, it was very 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 and so they were it actually the people that I tasered out of my life were easier than the shield part, because that is having them in your life but creating really really strong boundaries and keeping them, and that's difficult, you know, especially when you are the helper and really prone to, like, that's your to stop yourself and be like, no, no, I'm not going to do that. It,
Ironically, the other ones I'm really good at. It's the tasering that I'm bad at. And also because I'm very comfortable and knowing that I'm a soul first, and nothing can really break me, break the essence of who I am. So I'm always like, okay, I'm okay. I'm always going to be okay. So I'm willing to put myself out there, but I'm realizing that as much as I'm a soul, I'm still a human. And I got to nurture the human aspect of me, even though I know that I'm a soul and that will never be broken. But the human aspect of me really does need to be nurtured. And I feel like sometimes as a spiritual person, you forget that you're human.
All parts of those. And I think what you just touched on is so incredibly important. I talk about, and you are certainly not at that extreme, but I call it a spiritual coma. Those who step into the world of self transformation, there's like no coming back. Uh, it's doing the work of self transformation to the degree that you are detached from the here and now, the world that we live in. And the truth of it is that the world that we live in is super difficult and super challenging, and that will never change, at least the way we're doing it right now, unless there is some sort of massive shift, like pandemic level shift, to alter that. And it is possible. I actually believe that self transformation is global transformation, absolutely. But we live in the world that we live in, and it is a daily challenge. So it's really a matter of how we walk through it, and we do so with our minds, we do so with our hearts, we do so with our bodies, and with our soul. We don't have our bodies, we have nothing. I mean, Steve Jobs, I mean, it's just he top of the world, pancreatic cancer, done. So our bodies are very real, which is the third chapter and third week of my book. So you can't ignore all of that. And like, I'm going to spiritual and the rest doesn't matter. It does.
I have pictures of my chakra that people have taken, machines take, and it's always the chakras that are above are all giant. The throat chakra is big, the third eye is really big, the heart's big, and then my root chakra is like this big. and and I noticed just because I had a near death experience like 20 something years ago, so I've been on this spiritual journey that it was inflicted on me. I didn't choose this life; it was kind of given to me as a gift. That's why my name is Happy. But I realized that I didn't give enough importance to processing emotions, to feeling the feels, because I was so, you know, s- I just knew that I could feel really good at any time. And I forgot that you have to process stuff. And I wasn't processing it, and I wasn't honoring my body's needs. I was sleeping a lot, but there was a lot of self love that was missing because I was so busy loving everything else. So you kind of forget, which, it luckily it never brought me disease because I take care of myself. I'm very clean. If I have one negative thought, it's so present and big that I have to get rid of it.
Mhm.
But tell us a little bit about self care not being selfish, because I know a lot of people, especially parents, will not take care of themselves, their bodies, not give themselves the time that they need because they feel like they're being selfish and they have guilt surrounding it. And what do you recommend to people about really taking care of themselves, whether it's emotional or physical, but it's their bodies?
Yeah, well, it's actually everything that we've been talking about. It's not overloading yourself with content, taking time and truly stepping into mindfulness. It's taking care of your heart, shielding it from people who don't serve you. But when it comes to our bodies, as you mentioned, truly, we either neglect it or abuse it. We neglect it because we're like, okay, I'm going to overwork and you're just going to come along, or I'm not going to sleep, or I'm going to eat junk food, or whatever it is, and just assume that it's going to do what it does, and up until the time it doesn't, right? And also we abuse it by all the negative crap we tell our body. You're too old, you're too fat, you can't do this, whatever it is. So the heart detox week 3, is not so much about eating right, exercising right, sleeping well, though it is all of those things. It's really a matter of shifting and making a commitment to your body as your sacred vessel through this life. Again, that breaks down whether it's the mind or the heart or any other part of your body. Everything else stops. So just be kind to it. And self-care can be, it isn't just spa days with, your girlfriends or your boyfriends. It really is a matter of everything that we discussed. And as selfish as it may sound, putting oneself first truly becomes fuel for everything else. I mean, I as I'm sitting here right now, I'm literally on fire. Why? Because the work that I did, I'm now sharing with the world, but I did it out of, well, originally out of desperation, but it for this need of true self-care. And I believe that that has resulted in me showing up in a way that will benefit the world so much more so than when I was doing my very code things.
No, very well put. I want to say how much I appreciate everything that you've said so far. It resonates with my heart and soul and spirit and everything else. And y- even my guests that come on this show, I feel like they always come on the show at the perfect time for me. So, and I know that everyone watching will also have a wonderful experience and get a lot out of it, just like I did. Your book, Free to Be, a 6-week guide to reclaiming your soul, comes out on June 20th. So I want my audience to really go out, buy this, and read it and share it with everybody because it is a wonderful, wonderful book. There's so much more in the book that we did not cover, obviously. So make sure to buy this book, audience. It's a lovely book. I know it'll have a great effect on you, just like it had on me. And now, before we wrap up, I want you to tell us briefly about the second section of your book, which is week 4, 5, and 6. I know week 4 is about play and finding the way you play. Tell us about week 4. Week 4
Yeah.
is
The first part of the book is really dedicated to removing all the barriers that you have to finding your soul.
okay.
And I would say that it's a byproduct of doing the excavation that we do. So that now that you have found your soul, like, what do you do with it? And the number one way that I have found to set your soul free is through play. And we all play in very different ways. And I don't mean play as in like go to Vegas and what you do in Vegas has to stay in Vegas. I mean like doing cartwheels in your backyard. There is ways of you could doodle, you could paint, you can. There's so many different ways. There's actually 8 different play personality types that I've talked about in the chapter. And depending on your play personality type, there's all sorts of play activities, and there is science behind it. So play and neuroscience, it actually shifts the way that we think. So it is truly a way of what I have found the best way of amplifying your soul. So, and it's really important to figure out your play personality type. Like just really quickly, I'm a combination of the creative, the explorer, and the joker. And then there's ones that just do not resonate with me, like the director, or yeah, I can't remember the other ones right now.
Well, people will have
Um,
to buy your book to find out.
correct. So play like your life depends on it, because it does. And then week 5 is as woo woo as the book gets. It's about finding your true north. So now that you've found your soul, how do you have it tap into the greater consciousness? And people get soul and spirit mixed up. Soul is our unique imprint in this world. No other organism has the same makeup as you do. That's your soul. And then there is spirit, which is what connects all of us, whether it's, higher consciousness, universal energy, whatever you want to call it. And it's about the dance between the soul and spirit. And then week 6 is all about rewriting your story. There's a section called Manifesto Like You Mean It. The O is in parentheses, so it's manifest like you mean it. And so taking everything that you've gone through in the past 5 years and writing or rewriting your story, and not like, hey, good luck with that, but like I actually have a Venn diagram of how you can find your raison d'etre and and write your future based on it.
I love that. This book is definitely going to be a classic. I can already tell. And I can already see myself buying it for people and really going through it again and really just applying it to my life. I think I'm a spiritually evolved being that can write any of this stuff. But regardless of where you are in your life, you need to see other people's work and you need to re experience it and become better and better and better. Because a lot of people, they feel like they're happy, everything is good, life is great. They're teachers like I am, and they stop learning. So I think that's when you stop becoming spiritually evolved. So it's important to discover what layers of you have been hiding regardless of how many layers you've unveiled. So
Absolutely. It's a journey. It's a journey, and it's a journey. They joke around, the Buddhists say that it's not a journey from here to there, it's a journey from here to here. And the unfolding that you talk about is spot on.
thank you so much, Shirin. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being on the show. I am excited to share this with the world and so happy to have met you. I feel so blessed to have a wonderful job and get to have this experience. I wish you great success with this book and all your endeavors. And please make sure to go buy her book and support her in as many ways as possible. The link to her everything is going to be beneath this video or in the description in the podcast. And thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the conversation and the opportunity. Really enjoyed it.
You have a wonderful day and please write a review. Goodbye.